A lot of teams can't, and we've been fortunate.
I guess Satania's statistically the number two wide receiver on the team. I guess. What have you seen in his development throughout the season, and maybe what's next for him having, finally getting more production this
Well,
season?
I just thought he had a really good game Saturday. Boy, he can jump. He went up and got the one across the middle, and I think his confidence has grown throughout the year. It should, but I think what you saw Saturday is probably something you're going to see a little bit more, a few more catches on contested balls, and with that comes confidence. I think you can feel his confidence by the way, he was returning punts, and how he was catching punts without fair catching and all that, for ones that he would have prior to Saturday. So I think his confidence is growing, and he's always been talented.
You look at Missouri's roster; they've got a good number of people from Arkansas on the roster, but you got Monte Harrison, who's 29, probably hasn't lived in Lee's Summit in a while, and Vito Calvaruso. Is there any reason behind that? Well, you guys don't, and you obviously got ties to Missouri too, but you guys don't have a lot of Missouri presence on the roster.
Well, I'm looking at their two deep, and I don't think there's a whole lot of Arkansas kids in that two deep, but Missouri. To answer your question about Missouri, we've tried. They've got really good players, especially Kansas City and St. Louis, and Missouri's getting a lot of those kids. Oklahoma's been getting a lot of the Kansas City kids, and those are, try to answer your question, that is something that we've tried to amp up our staff numbers into those areas because they're close, and especially with 49 coming all the way through now, it's even faster to get here. So we certainly have tried to address that.
I was wondering also, just obviously you want to win every game and it's important, but with it being like a month between this game and, well, give or take a month in the bowl game,
Right.
and everything that's happening in that window with recruiting and transfer portal and stuff,
Yeah.
how big would it be in terms of momentum into those next few weeks after this game?
I think 7-5, 4-4 in the league, and beating a top 25 team, a top five team. I think that would really help us in recruiting and recruiting through the portal. Um, Obviously, we're going to a bowl either way, but this I think it would be big to get that win, and so we're going to try like hell to get that done.
Going back to the offensive line, getting Kudus back in there, what's the difference that he makes when he's out there on the line and from a protection standpoint too with Taylor?
Well, Kudus is one of our better players, and so he's big, athletic guy, can really run. So to have him and continue to have Blackstock, now if something happened or you need to play two, you need to rest one. A lot of times then you fall off where we wouldn't fall off as much. But obviously Kudus is one of our best linemen. We want to have him out there, which we'll be able to have.
What are your Thanksgiving plans with the team and with Jamie, or what are you guys doing?
Well, the team's going to we're going to practice early on Thursday, and they probably should be out by around noon. And then I guess they'll have off until about 12:30. I think staff's at 9, so it's usually 3 hours. So 12 be a team meeting on Friday. And I know a lot of the coaches are having some kids over. I know they're going to go home if they're close and take some friends with them. Right now, my plans are just to go home, and we don't have any company, which is love company, but I also love when it's just Jamie and I, and so that's we're just going to have that day. Probably watch a little football, take a nap, put some ice on my hip, and figure it out.
I think you said on the radio that was your favorite kind of Thanksgiving, just
It
you and
is.
Jamie.
It is, and I can't. I probably shouldn't have said that because everybody who's ever been to our house on Thanksgiving think I don't want them there. That's not true.
Um, Eli, he kind of stirs this thing up. He's
Yeah.
made a big deal out of this rivalry.
Yeah.
What do you think of him and y'all's relationship and how he's done this rivalry?
Well, I have, I have respect for, he stirred up a lot of stuff, not just with Arkansas. Um, so I have a lot of respect for him. He's a hell of a coach now. And, you don't want him to have the ball on the last drive. And I mean, you don't, because he's outstanding and has won a lot of games that way. It's a rivalry. He told me he's going to try to stir it up too when we first came here. I respect the guy. He's obviously done a really nice job there. So, um, we're rivals and they've got the trophy and they've had it for last 2 years. We'd like to get it back.
I know we've asked you about Andrew Armstrong a little bit, but he's gone past 1,000 and he has a chance to have one of the best seasons ever. What's just he meant to the dynamic of this offense?
Yeah, big time. That makes a couple of guys, over the last 3 seasons, that went over 1,000 yards, and that certainly will help us in recruiting as well. But I think Andrew he had strong belief in himself. You have to, coming from Commerce, you have to have, but you see a guy have a pretty good season, and then a lot of times he won't elevate the next year. He'll be satisfied. He gets more NIL money, whatever it is. He's done the opposite. He got more NIL money, but he also earned every penny of it, and so I have high respect for his work ethic, the way he's handled his business, and he's playing as good as I ever would have dreamt him playing.
Some of the losses you guys have had in Como have been, excruciating.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Well, even when I was here with Brett,
right. And the year after you left in 2016, Barry Odom faked a punt on his own 7-yard line.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, that kind of piles up and it hasn't been favorable for Arkansas. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We played them obviously 4 years and won one of them out here. And so that makes us 1-3. So, the first year we were out there, I think I went for 2 and we messed around and made it. And then there's 30 or 40 seconds left and they went down and kicked a field goal and beat us. And we've had some good games. Obviously last year was not, it was for them. And so it's hard to win. You see other teams going in and playing at Missouri. I think they're undefeated at home this year, and it's a hard place to play. They've got really good fans, and just on the road a lot of times, just hard to go into an opponent and win. Even though we've lost some games here, but Tennessee, it was hard for them to come in here and win as well. It's just hard.
You mentioned a lot of new players not here last year for the game against Missouri, but the coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball, all here. Do you sense maybe a little extra motivation from those guys based off what happened in this matchup?
We've motivated. I've done good I can motivate, and they're gonna get tired of me by the time the week's end. But we can't have that kind of performance again. But we have high respect because they're a really good team, physical team. But we got all the motivation we need. We just got to go up there and play well.
Sam, one of the things I've heard coaches say throughout the years is that the biggest advantage to a bowl game is just getting those extra days of practice, extra weeks of practice to look at younger players. But with the transfer portal and college football becoming so transient, is that still the case as far as you wanting to look at younger players during the bowl practices, or do you want to kind of keep working your regular guys there?
That's a good question, but the ones that stay, yes. So you're going to get the same benefit. The problem is that the guy that might be a 3, he might be a starter by the time bowl happens. But let's look at it. If you don't, of course, this is 4 out of 5, and we practiced all the way up until the plane ride. My first year here, and to me, we're 1-3 in the SEC. We should have been. Well, we were invited, so we should have been. But so let's take those 15. So this is 4. So that's 60 practices. Now, I get what you're saying. You may not have the same guy here, for those 60 practices. If you look at it and you have 30 before the season, that's 2 preseasons of practice. If a guy was here for 4 years or for 5 now, that he would have the advantage of the guys that aren't able to go. I'll say this. I felt like it really hurt us last year not to have those practices. I really did. Not only that, but I do think if you're not practicing, I think you lose more guys in the portal. You know, they're home over the time, whomever gets to them, you know, all that stuff. I don't think the portal will be quite as a big a deal for us because we have money. You know, we have not, you know, the first 2 years I was here, money wasn't an issue. It was scholarships and cost of attendance and all. We went from 4-20 to 9-4. Then NIL came in. We just didn't have the money that other folks had. We are now going to get back into that area, and maybe if it's even Steven, hopefully you'll see the team go back to what we did, what we were able to accomplish in our first 2 years.
Following up on the money question, is it more important to have that money to go out and get new players, or is it more important to have that money to keep your own guys here?
Talk to me about Wednesday or Thursday of next week. I'll let you know. But obviously you have a core group of guys that we have our record 6-5, so it's not what everybody wants and all that, including me. But we do have a good core group of players that we need to return. And so we've got to do that first. And then you look in your pool and you say, okay, how much I got? Well, I need this many, this position. I need this many, this position. I need, you know, and then you kind of look at it and you say, in the past, you know, if we got 100,000, somebody else got 300,000, we're done. We're out of it. I don't care what people say. You can't talk a guy because he likes you in a $200,000 transition. By the way, if any of you guys got $200,000 more, you'd be gone too. And so now we have it. So let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, Sam, I think I got this right from the notes that you guys had 55 newcomers. I know everybody's got a lot of newcomers, but
Yeah.
I think that was like tied for the FBC lead or something like that.
You counting walk-ons too, or no, Bob?
Okay, Kyle, it was Kyle's notes, but no. Just how do you think that's obviously a lot of turnover? How do you think all that's worked with the returnees and the new guys and all that?
It's hard, but everybody has to deal with it, you know. Not everybody. I mean, that number is probably higher than a lot and lower than some, but it's difficult because you're trying to get the right person in. You're not only trying to get the right athlete, the right position player, you're trying to get probably more important than any of it, you're trying to get the most right person in because, you know, bad apple can affect your work area. It can affect ours. So you're looking for people, obviously talented people, but you got to get the right people that'll fit the culture, are willing to work.